Hi, I'm Ella and I'm 30 years old. I have a big change coming up in my life right now, but before I can tell you about what that change is, I would like to tell you about the events that led up to this change. This story has two main characters, my husband, Danny, and my mother-in-law, Kim. Danny and I met through a dating app. At the time that we had met, I hadn't been in the mood to be in a relationship whatsoever. Plus, I had been on so many dates that I had given up all hopes of ever meeting someone to settle down with. But all of that ended when I met Danny. As soon as I matched with him, we started texting, and right off the bat, I felt like there was something totally different about him. He asked me a lot of interesting questions that weren't personal, and in general, kept the conversation flowy so effortlessly. Hell, we used to text until the very early hours of the morning because we just somehow have so much to talk about. When we met in person for the first time, I was worried that whatever spark we had over text would vanish and the date would be awkward. But as soon as I met him, we began talking the same way that we did over text. What followed after our first date was a lot of other dates where we ended up spending hours and hours with each other without ever realizing just how much time had gone by. We dated for around 2 years before deciding to throw all caution to the wind and get married. I know that dating period was very short, but when you know, you know. We both felt it in our souls that we were just made for each other. Our relationship up until that point had been the most amazing thing that had ever happened to me. There was no way I was going to let that go. We got married with a small and very personal wedding. Only those that were very close to us came. We had a great time until the reception. At the reception, Danny's mother approached us. I was cautious, but she seemed surprisingly nice. Both Danny and I thought that was weird, considering her track record of treating me like crap. But we quickly figured out why she had been so nice. She tried to spill her wine on my dress so she could ruin it. Thankfully, Danny had godlike reflexes and he was able to pull me away before even a drop touched my dress. We didn't say anything to her, but we did quickly move away from her. We socialized with the rest of our guests, but the night did get a little ruined because we had been paranoid for the rest of it. We were worried that Kim would try to sneak up on me and actually try to harm me. You must be wondering why Kim tried to do that. Let me tell you about our complicated relationship. Kim and I didn't exactly have the best relationship, to say the least. From the moment I met her, she always seemed to have hated me, and she loved to make it abundantly clear. The first time Danny introduced me to her, she loudly gasped and then proceeded to say that my ugliness took her by surprise. Of course, I knew that I was nowhere near the conventional beauty standards, but to be called ugly outright? That was hurtful. The rest of the time I spent with her, she continued to throw insults at me, and I didn't say a word back then, because obviously, who would say anything back to their partner's parents? But Danny had my back, thankfully. In the middle of that meal, he got up, paid for our portion of the meal, and grabbed me before walking out. Kim did not take that very well. She blew his phone up with lots of calls and messages, but Danny made it abundantly clear to her that if she did not respect me, he would not talk to her or be in any contact with her. I remember feeling bad about what I was doing to his relationship with his mom. I knew that the two of them had been very close and that she had single-handedly raised him. I had a huge breakdown about it, and Danny was there for me then. Did I actually do something wrong to your mother? Did I say something I shouldn't have? Did I dress wrong? No, darling, not at all. I don't even know why she's behaving this way. I wouldn't mind her treating me this way, but it's affecting your relationship with her, and I don't like that. Listen to me, Ella. Unless you actually did something wrong, I don't see any reason why I should continue to be nice to my mother. But she's your only family. You can't let me get in between that. You'll be my new family then. My mother needs to apologize for what she did, and only then will I be nice to her. You don't have to worry about a thing. Thank you so much for being on my side in all this, Danny. Of course, honey. I love you, and you've been nothing but super nice about this whole thing, but you need to stop thinking that you're the one causing all this. This is just bringing out my mother's true colors, and I'm not liking what I'm seeing. It was really nice to have Danny on my side. He made sure to reassure me every time he and Kim got into a fight regarding their lack of communication. Kim's hatred for me only grew after that. Over the next few years, she kept trying to hurt me every time we did meet, which was only on holidays. Danny would always be there to stand in between us, but that never stopped her from continuing to try to get her hands on me. Whenever Danny and I tried to talk to her, she would lash out at us for treating her like she was crazy, which we didn't. We simply spoke to her in a calm and gentle manner, but she got aggressive very fast. She never failed to tell us what she thought about me either. She believed that I was brainwashing Danny into pulling away from her. She even believed that I was blackmailing him to leave her so I could isolate him and have him all to myself. Of course, Danny never kept quiet about it. He continued to fight for me and told her on many occasions to leave us alone. He even went as far as to block her on every platform so she wouldn't be able to contact us. But of course, she was never one to leave Danny alone, so she showed up at our house and demanded that Danny speak to her. We had a huge argument at our doorstep, and Danny and Kim got into a huge screaming match. It got to a point where even our neighbors were tuning into the fight. I calmly and politely asked Kim to leave, and we'd talk about it over the phone when we'd all calmed down. Instead of listening to what I had to say, she shoved me aside forcefully and told me to shut up. Danny saw red at that point and called the police. He asked them to have her escorted off our property because she refused to leave. Kim cried and screamed a lot because she didn't expect Danny to call the cops on her. She tried to put her hands on me again because she kept yelling that it was all my fault that Danny had changed so much. But Danny stood between the both of us, effectively stopping Kim from harming me. The cops made it in time to see her trying to strangle me and quickly held her back and escorted her away. After that happened, Danny and I decided to file a restraining order against her. It was a tough decision to make, but that was not what we wanted to have happened. I tried my best to be civil with Kim, but she never seemed to want to be nice. We had the restraining order served to her and she did not waste time calling us. Danny set his phone to speaker mode so I could hear what she said and contribute to the conversation if needed. What is the meaning of this? Meaning of what? Of this restraining order. Kim, I'm sure you know that you've been unnecessarily aggressive towards me these past few months. You've shown up at our doorstep and tried to keep assaulting me. So? You are the reason my son has even sent me this restraining order. You poisoned his mind with all these awful things. She did no such thing. You've been horrible to deal with. What kind of son is even comfortable with sending his own mother an order restricting her access to him? What kind of mother tries to strangle her son's wife? Two can play that game, Mom. Stay out of our lives or I will make things worse for you. I'm sorry that it has to come to this, but I promise you, if you make changes in your behavior, we will rescind the order. Wow, you create the problem and then try to get all the recognition for the solution to that problem. I don't want any of your sorry. I will ruin you. Just you wait and watch. That's enough. Now goodbye. It was disappointing to hear Kim still be so rude. What would it even take for her to learn to be nice? Every day I couldn't help but think if I had done something to upset her. Danny and I had multiple conversations about it where we ran back through every possibility, but she literally deemed me ugly within the first 5 seconds of the meeting and proceeded to hate my guts after. Maybe she was upset that Danny had another woman in his life, which, okay, I could understand, given that it was only the two of them for a long time. But to actively try to hurt me in our relationship was not okay or normal. I tried to suggest therapy to her on several occasions over the years, but she always told me that she was fine and the only thing that would fix her was me getting out of her and Danny's life. Of course, there was no way I was leaving Danny's life, and even if I wanted to, if it was for this reason, he would never have let me leave. We tried our best to be civil with her, but that didn't work either. She took to telling the rest of Danny's family about my evil doings, and he ended up getting a lot of concerned calls. Even though Danny handled the situation, it surprised me to see just how easily Kim managed to convince everyone about what she believed. Either she was a woman of importance in their family, or she was just really good at lying. My bets are on the second one. Anyways, after she received the restraining order, she stopped coming by our place. Although I did catch her loitering just a little outside our house. She would just stand there and watch our house. When you're inside the house and you see someone just standing there staring, you tend to be creeped out. Danny and I called the police several times to deal with her, but I don't know how she even managed to get away from them every time. By the time the police would arrive, she would be gone. Eventually, she stopped showing up and Danny and I thought we were finally free. And then our mail began disappearing. There were so many things I ordered and many letters I got from my family back home, but never actually received because whenever I went to check the mailbox, the mail was gone. It got really frustrating because I was losing on so many beautiful letters. My family loves the aesthetic of writing letters to each other. And none of what I was ordering was getting refunded, considering the drivers attest to delivering the packages. Danny and I had a good suspicion about who could have been robbing us. Kim. We knew that she was bitter and angry with us. Of course, we didn't agree with this method of hers to gain attention because it was something that was causing a lot of losses. But we also didn't want to engage with her. If she thought that this would get us to talk to her, she was sorely wrong. Instead, we bought a pretty noticeable camera that we attached to the mailbox and attached with it a note that stated that there was a camera that was recording everyone who came over to the mailbox. And surprise, surprise, we saw Kim standing in her usual spot and staring at the house when we were at work. Then she approached our mailbox, read the note, and turned away. We said nothing about it because at least she took the note seriously. I was at work when I got a call from Kim. Now, she was blocked on my phone, but she decided to call my company and have them get me on call. I didn't even want to know how she figured out where I worked because that would have only made me a lot more paranoid. Hi, Ella. Kim, why are you calling me? Oh, I just wanted to let you know about this one thing I did. Okay. You see, these past few months, all I could think about was how much I hated you because of the way you ruined my relationship with my son. First of all, that's very unhealthy. Secondly, I didn't do any of that. You did that to yourself by hating me so much and trying to ruin your son's relationship because of that hatred. I'm not done, Ella. I really don't have time for this. Oh, you will definitely have time for this when I tell you what I did. Like I said, I was so consumed by my thoughts that one day it hit me. I didn't have to get near you to hurt you. Kim, what did you do? Nothing too big for me, really. I just happened to walk by your place when I saw your car parked by the sidewalk. I had my keys in my hand, and next thing I knew, I was scratching up your car real good like a mad person with them. Here, let me send you a couple of pictures. I was confused because from where I was sitting, which was by the window, I could clearly see my car parked there. I knew that Danny wasn't home either, and we both had distinctly different cars. So if neither of our cars was there, whose car was it, and why was it parked by our place? My answers came rather quickly when I received the pictures. Kim had emailed me the pictures considering the fact that she was blocked everywhere. The car was indeed scratched up really well. It would take a lot of money to fix that, but that car was definitely not mine. I took a closer look at the number plate and instantly recognized whose car it was. It was Senator John's car. We had a senator who lived in our neighborhood. He was notoriously known for being able to get away with small things like bad parking, although he was genuinely a nice guy. Everyone liked him and no one really made any complaints against him. In fact, Danny and him were pretty amicable with each other. If there was one thing I did know about him, it was that he took his cars very seriously. That man hasn't had a speck of dirt on his cars in ever. John was known to have fired multiple people who washed his cars because he didn't think they cleaned them well enough. So it was no surprise that he was actually going to lose his mind when he saw his car all scratched up. I was upset that Kim went so far, but I knew that this was going to be her true learning moment. I took a couple of pictures of my car that was sitting in the parking lot and sent them to her. What? Cat got your tongue? I really don't know what to say, Kim. Of course you don't. This is definitely beyond anything that you could have imagined. I told you that I would ruin you, and this is just the beginning. And oh, look, I hear the police coming down this way. I don't know how to tell you this, but that's not my car. What? Don't lie to me. If this is your way of trying to make me feel bad, it's not going to work. No, seriously, my car is parked at work. I took a couple of pictures and sent them to you. Why don't you take a look? But then whose car did I scratch? That would be the car of the senator, who, by the way, is very particular about his cars. What? Oh, Kim, if you wanted to cause me harm, the least you could have done was at least check whose car that was. What do I do? Face the consequences of your actions. Take care, Kim. Goodbye. A part of me was excited to see what would happen to Kim. It brought me a certain level of satisfaction to hear her shiver as I told her just whose car she had damaged. I immediately called Danny to tell him about what had happened, and while he was shocked and angry that she had even attempted to do something to me, he too couldn't help but laugh at the way that things had turned out for her. By the time I was done with work, I had received a call from the police station requesting Danny and I to come down. We had our statements taken considering Kim had a vendetta against me. It didn't help Kim's case that we also had restraining orders against her. We were asked about how long she had been trying to hurt me and if there was any particular reason why. We answered truthfully because we didn't have any reason to lie about it. We were also told that even though Kim was at the scene of the crime, she denied doing it. They asked us if we had any security cameras around our home, and I told them that we did have one attached to our mailbox because in the past few months, a lot of our mail had been disappearing. We were asked to submit the footage from that camera, and we did. When we reviewed the footage, surprise, surprise, Kim scratched the car like a mad person. She looked almost animalistic while doing so. I will admit that I did feel a little sorry for her. Clearly, she wasn't doing so well mentally, but to go this far was inexcusable. The senator, John, was obviously fuming with anger. He approached Danny to have a word with him. Danny, you know I think you're a great guy, but this is inexcusable. Oh, I fully agree with you, John. I don't think what my mom did deserves any forgiveness. Really? I thought you'd try to defend her. She tried to do that to my wife's car. I would have done the same thing you're doing if she did what she intended to do. Why would she even want to do that to Ella? She's a lovely woman. That's what I've tried to tell my mom, but she refuses to believe that my wife is anything less than evil. That's a shame, really. Even so, I'm really sorry for what my mother did. If you need me to cover any of the costs of the car, let me know. Nonsense. I approached you to tell you that I will be pursuing the highest punishment possible to be given to her. She will pay for what damages she did. I just didn't want us to have any hard feelings. No hard feelings on my side, John. Do whatever you think is fair. Senator John was not lying when he said he would pursue maximum punishment. Over the next few weeks, Kim was taken to court and her behavior was reviewed, and many testaments were given regarding her behavior. Her crime was analyzed and John's lawyers fought hard for a good punishment. In our state, damage to property worth over $1,000 results in a felony charge along with a fine of above $1,000 in jail time. After some time, finally a verdict was given. Kim was charged with damage to personal property and was fined $5,000 along with 2 years of jail time. Kim broke down and sobbed as the verdict was given. I once again felt a little bad, but Danny seemed relieved. For the next 2 years, we wouldn't have to deal with her or her harassment. Kim was escorted out of the courtroom and was taken away. Senator John approached us to apologize again, but we assured him that he had only done what was right. In doing what he did, he also provided us with some peace of mind. Of course, we were still worried about what the future would look like once Kim was done with her sentence, and that worry was rightfully there, considering a few weeks after she spent time in jail, she began to send us letters. In those letters, she kept detailing how she would make our lives hell once she got out. Neither Danny nor I wanted to continue to deal with her, so we made the tough decision to move out of our town. Thankfully, we both always wanted to leave, but we were way too focused on our careers to make a big change like that. As I'm writing this, Danny and I are currently packing all our things to move to Europe, where both of us have found way better jobs. We're set to move in a month, and I cannot wait to start afresh. It's going to be hard to adjust, but it will all be worth it in the end. We haven't told anyone from either of our families that we're moving yet. And when we do, we won't give them any details. We can't have Kim finding out about where we are and then harassing us once again. It was a tough call to make. That is, to leave everything we knew behind because we didn't want one person disturbing us. But it's going to be the best decision we've made. I can already feel it.